Every time you spend money, it feels like a choice. You compare options, you decide what you need, you choose what feels right. But what if most of those decisions aren't as independent as they seem? What if, behind the scenes, there are invisible rules quietly shaping how you spend without you even noticing? Because in today's world, spending isn't just about price or need, it's about design, psychology, and systems that guide your behavior in very subtle ways. And once you start seeing these invisible rules, you realize something important. You're not just choosing what to buy, you're being guided towards certain choices. The first invisible rule is framing. How something is presented changes how you perceive its value. Take pricing, for example. A product priced at $9.99 feels very different from one priced at $10, even though the difference is minimal. A premium option placed next to a basic one suddenly makes the mid-tier option feel like the smartest choice. This isn't random, it's intentional. Businesses design pricing structures to guide you towards specific decisions, not by forcing you, but by shaping how the options feel. So when you think you're choosing freely, you're often choosing within a carefully constructed frame. Another invisible rule is default behavior. People tend to stick with what's already selected. If a subscription auto-renews, most people won't cancel. If a certain option is pre-selected, many will go with it. Because changing the default requires effort, and effort creates friction, so companies design defaults that work in their favor. Not because you have to follow them, but because most people will. This is why so many services make signing up easy, but leaving slightly harder. The default is to stay, and that default shapes spending over time. Then there's the rule of convenience. The easier something is to buy, the more likely you are to buy it. One-click purchases, saved payment methods, automatic renewals. All of these reduce friction, and when friction disappears, spending increases. Because you're not stopping to think, you're just acting. Convenience feels like a benefit, and it is, but it also changes behavior. It removes the pause between intention and action. And that pause is where most spending decisions used to happen. Without it, decisions become faster and often less deliberate. Another powerful rule is anchoring. The first price you see influences everything that comes after. If you see a product priced at $500, then another at $200 feels cheap, even if $200 is still expensive. But if you saw the $200 product first, it might feel expensive instead. So businesses carefully control what you see first. They anchor your expectations. And once that anchor is set, your perception of value adjusts around it. This is why expensive options are often shown first, not because they expect you to buy them, but because they shape how you evaluate everything else. Then there's the rule of bundling. Instead of selling things individually, companies group them together. At first, this feels like a better deal, more value for one price. But bundling also makes it harder to evaluate what you're actually paying for. You're not deciding on one thing, you're deciding on a package. And that complexity makes it easier to justify spending. Because the decision feels less precise, you're not asking, "Do I need this?" You're asking, "Does this bundle feel worth it?" And that shift changes behavior. Another invisible rule is habit. Spending is not always a conscious decision. Over time, it becomes routine. Subscriptions, regular purchases, recurring services, they become part of your life. You don't question them every month. You just continue. And that's where businesses gain long-term stability. Because once spending becomes a habit, it requires effort to break. Not because it's expensive, but because it's familiar. And familiarity is powerful. Then there's social influence. What others are doing affects what you do. Reviews, ratings, popularity indicators, they all signal what is normal or preferred. If something is widely used, it feels safer to choose, even if you don't consciously think about it. This creates a feedback loop. Popular products become more popular, and that popularity drives more spending. Because people trust what others have already chosen. There's also the rule of perceived loss. People are more sensitive to losing something than gaining something. So businesses frame decisions around what you might lose. Limited time offers? Only a few left. Don't miss out. These messages create urgency, not because the product is necessarily better, but because the idea of missing out feels uncomfortable, and that discomfort pushes people to act, even if they weren't planning to spend. Then there's the rule of identity. People don't just buy products, they buy what those products say about them. Premium brands, minimalist tools, high-performance devices, they all signal something, and spending becomes a way to align with that identity. So decisions are not just logical, they're emotional. You're not just choosing what works, you're choosing what feels right for who you are or who you want to be. And that's a powerful driver of spending. But perhaps the most important invisible rule is this: spending is easier when it's less visible. Subscriptions, digital payments, auto renewals, they all reduce visibility. You don't see the money leaving in the same way you would with cash, and when spending feels less visible, it feels less significant. Which leads to more of it, not because you intend to spend more, but because the system makes it easier to do so. So when you step back and look at all of this, a pattern emerges. Spending today is not just about choice, it's about environment, the way options are presented, the way systems are designed, the way behavior is guided. All of these factors shape how you spend, often without you realizing it, and that doesn't mean you don't have control, but it does mean your decisions are being influenced, quietly, consistently, strategically. Because in modern business, the goal is not just to sell you something once, it's to shape how you decide, over and over again. And the more you understand these invisible rules, the more you start to see them in the apps you use, in the services you subscribe to, in the choices that feel easy but weren't accidental. Because behind every simple purchase, there's often a system guiding you there. You just don't see it. Every time you spend money, it feels like a choice.